Okay, we are back, everybody. We have finally contact Mr. Chris Stylis. So here he is. Welcome, Mr. Stylis.
Welcome. It's good to talk again, Jan. I guess in our limited time there, I'll talk a bit about the Shag Harbor Incident Society, about how it plays a role in my research, and about a very big event we have planned for 2021. We're having an international symposium, hopefully in Yarmouth, Nova Scotia. And I can touch on those things in the few minutes we have there.
Okay, we are listening to you. The floor is
Okay.
yours.
Well, some of your audience might know who I am. I'm probably best known for my work on the Shag Harbor incident, which is a case involving a purported crash of an unidentified flying object into the waters of Shag Harbor, Nova Scotia. That's a fishing village, and that occurred back on October the 4th, 1967. It's often referred to as one of Canada's most important UFO cases, certainly one of the best documented, has been featured in many featured documentaries, US and European based, and of course here in Canada, right? Now, the attention that case got and my work on it, which began in 1992, eventually got such attention to the community that they decided to embrace it. And in the fishing village of Shag Harbor, they formed an incident society, which is a registered charity. And its key purpose is to promote the case. You know, they embraced it and think that things learned from it and other UFO cases and other UFO incidents in the general area should be made available to the public, should be promoted, that they're important. I mean, UFOs are a worldwide phenomena, but there certainly were key events there. And, in its day, it was an international story. And the attention since my research began has put a focus on it and has put it there. My view of the phenomena is what I often refer to as a blended one. I think at the base of it that there is a nuts and bolts reality, but there's a very strong psychological and psychic component, I believe, to it. My beliefs closely align with researchers more like Jacques Vallée, who have room for things like reality transformation and an ongoing historical sort of, like I say, there's room for nuts and bolts, there's room for the extraterrestrial hypothesis,
Yeah.
but there is very much a long-term history here that's difficult to understand. And it can be sometimes difficult to find its place in the North American view of research. The Shag Harbor Incident Society and my involvement with it, I've served in a few capacities. Up until a few months ago, I was the vice chair of the group. I live just outside Metro Halifax, some distance away, but I still sit on the board of directors there. And my work there, although the prime thing of the group is to promote that case and to bring tourism into the area, and that it has aided me in my research in a great way because it brings people together. It's kind of a focal point. Often members of the society connect people to me, and it has added to that case and many others. Recently, you and I had a lengthy video discussion, and I showed you some of the other key cases that's brought forward, cases that I think are very important, not as well known. And recently, I did a video for MUFON. I'm hoping that will be on YouTube soon. That'll show just how important and how they've shaped my view of the phenomena. One recent example is, yes, it's a worldwide phenomena, but there seems to be a hot spot there in the Shag Harbor area nearby Cape Sable Island. In 2018, I was lucky enough with several other members and dozens of people in the public to witness a daytime orb sighting that continued for an hour and 20 minutes. We got great video, and you can barely, when you look at the whole summary of the witness of the testimony here and of the kind of evidence that we have, there's no conventional explanation that'll suffice. something else, one of the things I like about UFOs is there's, I think, room for all of us. What else can you do without a degree that you can dive right into? And if you do the work, get that chance to play Sherlock Holmes. And I think
Oh, ça a bloqué.
the web, getting out of the armchair, meeting the people face to face. And I think, it just gives you a real great insight into how impactful a UFO experience can be. The other thing too is this, it's great that, a fishing village, we've outstripped what that community can do in terms of putting on a symposium. And the nearby town of Yarmouth, we're hoping next year to have an international symposium there. We have some great U.S. speakers, and our only concern now, of course, is for progress with the virus and the border. But we've had a great deal of interest in that in it. And we've got some great researchers coming, people like Nick Pope, Debbie Ziegelmeyer, people from MUFON, and Rob Switek. And they're all coming down here. And we're going to have a symposium that's a little different. Yes, we're going to get up and speak. I will be a presenter myself. But the thing is, what's different about this is the next day, we're not only going to put the world experts in front of you and the eyewitnesses who are there. And some of them, are still alive in the community, unlike cases like Roswell, and they can tell their story firsthand. You can hear the opinions of the experts. But one of the great things about the Shag Harbor UFO Expo we're going to have next year is that we're going to put people on motor coaches, and we're going to take you right to the sites of the original crash. We're going to take you to where this 2018 incident occurred, and locations where there's a long history, including Canada's former secret military base, CFSS Shelburne, and back row and that. So there's nothing like hearing the people who are there in their own words, hearing what the experts think and telling you the importance, putting these cases in perspective. We're going to take you right to the physical spots and point it out. We're going to make it as real as we can. The only way we can improve in that is to have a time machine. But anyway, anybody that wants more information on that, there's a great website we have up called shagharborufoexpo.com. And you put that in, you can Google that up and you can go there. And it gives all the great details of what we're going to have next year. Other speakers that I failed to mention here, the prices, how to book, where it's going to be held at the Yarmouth Grand Hotel, which is a good facility. We had to move from the village because in the past we found that we just didn't have the accommodations. A fishing village is a great place maybe to see UFOs. It's not the greatest place to try to stage an international UFO symposium. You quickly find the last time we had one that was well attended at the 50th anniversary of the Shag Harbor incident, it was like a tent city in the village, and we could have certainly had more people had we been able to accommodate them. So hopefully the town of Yarmouth is going to embrace this and give us what we don't have in a fishing village there. Anyway, I hope that gives you an oversight into the kind of things that the Shag Harbor Incident Society, my work, and what we hope to offer the world next year there contributes to the thing. I think what you're doing is a great thing here, bringing people scattered across the country, all doing their own little thing, but contributing to an insight into the phenomena. We need it, and there's a lot of people I know that do great work, and hopefully people will tune into your channel and to YouTube and take that in and appreciate what they're doing, their contributions. And I know, have bitten off a big chunk trying to turn this into part of Canadian history, and it is.
Thank you very much, Mr. Stillis. Can you... le son est bon, Steve?
Oui.
Okay. Can you tell a little bit more about your book? You have written several books.
Oh, yeah. Yes. I've co-authored a couple of books. The most recent one is called Impact to Contact, and it's available through Amazon.com. And it kind of is the most recent work, I think, where you have a real in-depth view of the Shag Harbor incident. And I co-authored it with Graham Sims, another investigator of UFOs and the paranormal here in the Maritimes. And the thing is, it's a book that, like, I think will surprise a lot of people. in some ways it reads like fiction, but of course, as anything but, it's very well documented when you go through it, and has perhaps the most up-to-date information on some of the things that contributed to the Shag Harbor incident, such as the flight of a Pan Am cargo plane that witnessed all this and had a near collision at 33,000 feet. You know, like Shag Harbor incident may have occurred over 50 years ago, but new evidence continues to come forward. And this book documents that well with some of the latest on that. So again, that's available through Amazon.com. Should come up easily. And thank you for asking about it. So,
Okay, well, I'm finally showing some of your book at the screen. You have co-written a book with Don Ledger.
Yes, Dark Object, that came out back in 2001. Small paperback that should have been much thicker. 3 editors did their job on that. You know, when you have a U.S. publisher, I find it very interesting. They had great concerns about tort law and about being sued and this sort of thing. And of course, here in Canada, that was a very strange concept to me. We didn't face that with the book that I published for Graham Sims, but that was a great concern of the publisher there, Del Bantam, and the various editors that were involved with the release of Dark Object. It seems almost humorous now when I think about it. That little book, that manuscript, much thicker, but it get pared down. Of course, you know, you often hear these stories when you go to a local author, whether it's poetry or science, you know, they go there and, you know, you get 3 editors, they all got to earn their check, so they make a cut. But the concern there was for tort law, which I find funny because who sues in Canada and what would it get you, you know? And again, what would the need have been, you know? It's a matter of Canadian history. I mean, when you think about it, when the Canadian Mint starts issuing commemorative coins for UFO incidents in Canada, such as Shag Harbor, Falcon Lake, yes, Clarenville, Newfoundland, you know, how controversial can it be? I think institutions like the Canadian Mint go to great lengths to avoid it, you know.
Yeah, it's a good thing for us. Do you have a question, Dr. Genta?
So what are the recent... What kind of outcome recently came out of the incident? It's just new evidence for the incident, or there were some accompanying, I don't know, paranormal phenomena, or some people became contactees or whatever? Did anything like this materialize?
Yes, we have had close encounter cases in the Shag Harbor area. They're rare. They don't always tend to follow the typical model. But this has been an aspect, and I think the public attention that the main case has got has helped bring people forward. And it's hard to describe. You know, things are very atypical here. I mean, when I refer, for example, to the sighting that I was lucky enough to witness in the daytime, we had perfect viewing conditions that day. It's rare, the middle of the afternoon on a sunny day, September 15th, 2018. We had a crowd of people on the beach with us. And in fact, several people from the Incident Society were there. I was actually in Yarmouth and they called me. It took me an hour to get to the site and this thing was still present. And one of the people that was, in fact, who rode in the car with me was a repeater who's had a few, perhaps once a decade, close encounters in that area. And in fact, we'd left a home in the Yarmouth area interviewing somebody else that had a possible missing time experience. So these things have happened in the community. They tend to not follow the typical pattern, you know, that has been dominant since the time of Betty Hill, somebody who I knew well as a personal friend, by the way, and who gave me some great insights, her perspective on the whole phenomenon, particularly that part was interesting. But yes, these kinds of cases have occurred there. It's hard to judge, to put a number on how typical or how common they are, because I think people are still reluctant to come forward. There is a stigma, right? I mean, and of course, you get a very individual reaction. I mean, the day that we were watching all this, you know, the crowd that was near us on the beach, you know, we're going ooh and ah, every different aspect of the sighting as this thing would disappear and come closer and reappear. And other people would simply look and shrug and go, I don't know what I'm looking at, and walk away. You know, you need 2 things for a UFO experience. You need a UFO and you need a witness. And the individual reactions can go from one extreme to the other. In fact, two people often in the same sighting can experience it and react totally different. And I find that just as an interesting part of the equation as the UFO itself. And yeah, I experienced it that day on the beach. You know, some people were euphoric watching it. Other people were nonplussed and couldn't care less and shrugged and walk away. And others were simply almost terrified. You know, like it runs the full gambit.
So were some people actually scared, or?
Yes, there was a young couple that came up while we were waiting for it to reappear because this orb had disappeared and reappeared several times. And when I talk about an orb, it was like a whitish translucent thing and had structure inside. And it was very clear in the sky. It was a cloudless sky. It was kind of a Windex blue when you looked at it. Unusual here in Nova Scotia, you know, in the fall. But when you looked and it would reappear, sometimes it would come much closer than it had been. And people would make a sound when it would reappear, you know, that had been watching or waiting for it. I can remember two young girls on the beach leaving. They came up to us while we were waiting for one of these reappearances and saying, "What are you looking at?" And just as the question was asked, the orb reappeared. And one of the girls said, "That." And when the girls looked, they were like surprised, unexpected, and just ran hurriedly to their car and tore out of the area with a little spin of the gravel. So, you know, it can run the full range. You know, I often say that, you know, the greatest fear I face and the greatest weapon that helps suppress a greater understanding and openness about this phenomena isn't government secrecy or anything but apathy. You know, we grow up in a time when everybody expects, well, you know, we're not alone, so what? You know, like apathy is our thing, right? And as far as government secrecy goes, you know, people say, well, they have to because of national security, but I think it's got much more to do with national insecurity. They have budgets in the billions and they don't want to fess up that they don't know what's going on. I think it's that simple.
Okay, very good, Mr. Stillis.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
It was very interesting. So everybody, if you want to learn more on the Shag Harbor Society, please visit their site. They have also a museum. And as Mr. Stillis said, there will be a big event next year. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you for the invitation. It's been a pleasure, Jan. And we'll talk again sometime. You take care. And I hope your event continues to go well. I'll be watching some of the other contributions with great interest. Okay. You have a great day, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.